Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. We got a lot more about the Sasha Banks Naomi situation, backstage reactions to their walkout of Raw on Monday. We've also got some words from Raw announcer Jimmy Smith about his perspective dealing with this on the air as it was happening, and how he feels it's going to go from here. We've got a preview for tonight's AEW Dynamite. We're going to talk about who we think the Jokers are going to be. Are they going to be genuine Joker product?
Or Brand X?
And of course, we're going to talk about NXT. If you haven't already, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening to us in the audio realm, do us a huge favor. Leave us a rating, review, or a comment. It really helps grow Going In Raw. And of course, next weekend, not this weekend, next weekend, we're going to be live at the twitch.tv/Steven Larson for AEW's Double or Nothing. So be sure to follow us on the Twitch. Larson, let's break down this Sasha and Naomi backstage reaction situation.
So, of course, following news broken by Fightful Select. By the way, go subscribe to Fightful Select. They do great work. That Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out of Monday Night Raw this week after voicing their displeasure with their creative direction and the direction of the women's tag division. We're getting some news on the reaction from within WWE. So Wade Keller reported on his PW Torch show that those that he spoke to were, quote, puzzled by Sasha and Naomi's decision. These transcripts come to you from WrestlingNews.co. So what Wade had to say, quote, I will say the people I'm communicating with instinct is they're puzzled. They say the locker room management are puzzled by the reaction and the actions of Sasha and Naomi. It feels weird, I'm told, how this played out. People are just kind of shaking their heads. The instinct with the people that I'm communicating with is Sasha overreacted to a normal day at work and having been kind of worked up heading into today over some things that might not be all that worth getting worked up over. They're paid to play a role on TV, and WB said that. Behind the scenes, there's not a lot of instant sympathy or thought of like, finally someone took a stand over this injustice that was going on. It's more like, what? Where did this come from? And how did they get themselves so worked up over this? Over on Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez says, according to those he talked to, there's, quote, zero support for Sasha and Naomi backstage. Again, these transcripts from WrestlingNews.co. He said a lot. I try to get it as concise as I can.
Right. Yeah. There's some strong language here too.
There is some strong language here. He says, you would think that if you have a company full of folks that are presented with bad creative all the time and get frustrated with the creative, well, you would think that if Sasha and Naomi were handed bad creative and they finally took a stand and they just said, no, I ain't doing this, I'm out of here, and they walked out, well, you would think that all the other wrestlers would be on their side and would back them up. They would say, finally, somebody stood up for themselves. Because I see a lot of fans showing support. Well, you would think that the wrestlers dealing with this every day would say the same thing, but I have not heard from one person, not one that is sticking up for Sasha and Naomi. And not only are they not sticking up for Sasha and Naomi, but boy, have I heard a lot of terms thrown around. Most of them are some derivative of the word mark. Mark, effing mark, a mark to a degree that is unfathomable. I have heard zero support for Sasha Banks in this situation. There is zero support for Sasha Banks walking out of WWE over all of this. People are furious. They think it's ridiculous. They think that she's whatever. So that's the story. Where this goes, I don't know, but literally every single bit of support that I've seen for Sasha Banks coming out of this has either been from people in another company that weren't there last night, and that's it, or fans. Her actual coworkers have zero sympathy for what happened here. I think that should probably tell you something. Again, we largely have the official WB side of the story, but I also heard from a lot of people, obviously off the record, WB, that they are not sympathetic to this at all. These are people who have been presented with really stupid ideas, and they've had to do them. They are not sympathetic on this one. I think that kind of tells you that she didn't like some creative, but the other wrestlers probably look at that creative and thought, dude, what are you complaining about? Both of you are going to be headlining a pay-per-view and singles championship matches. This is your job. Meanwhile, right before we went on the air, Fightful Select, has an extensive write-up about what they've heard about backstage reaction. And part of that states that they've spoken to some sources within WB who have, in fact, been supportive of Sasha and Naomi's position, but seemingly most of those that they spoke to took no issue with Sasha and Naomi voicing concerns about creative or walking out per se. It's just most of the people, according to Fightful spoke to, took issue with them walking out in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
Now, we say all the time, sources that talk to various sites can have agendas.
Yeah, that's totally true. In fact, Wade Keller, the first, writer that we mentioned, was the one who was talking about Keith Lee being difficult. So clearly he's getting his info from somebody who has an agenda. That when
somebody whose position is sympathetic to WWE. Now, like WWE's statement they put out during Raw, seemed to want to, I had the word at my tongue and then I lost it. Discredit.
Yeah.
Sasha and Naomi for walking out on Raw.
Yeah, right.
And, very much giving WWE's perspective on things.
Yeah.
And, seemingly we have a lot of people that are sympathetic to WWE's position talking to people now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have not heard the other side of the story, however.
As far as Alvarez saying there's zero support, that's blatantly false.
Yes. Bailey tweeted out and something that seems supportive.
It was, absolutely. Shayna Baszler. And so Bailey hasn't been around. Shayna Baszler literally just wrestled him on Friday. Instagrammed out support. Yeah. So that's a lie. I mean, that's not factually true what he's saying. Yeah. In which case you have to take a look at everything else that he's saying and say, okay, well, what of this has any amount of credibility to it? Yeah. We said yesterday, Fightful Select is the gold standard. Absolutely. And yeah, like right before we went the air, we always encourage people to go check out Fightful Select because they Sean does amazing work. The whole staff there does amazing work, and we don't want to just sort of take everything they do and regurgitate it here.
Not at all. And the thing about I perused what Fightful Select had right because literally before we started, and it seems to be a very measured take with points of view from various people and various points of view, as opposed to quotes that are only seemingly representing one WWE's point of view of things.
Yeah, and with Alvarez specifically, I mean, I'm sorry, I've seen clips of him on Wrestling Observer, and it's just some of it is just really cringy. I'm sorry, I don't know the guy.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe he's a nice guy, but I've seen clips of him, and with Naomi specifically, I remember there was one. It was one of the reviews where it was like a Royal Rumble review or something, and one of the dudes on there that Alvarez was with was saying some really just embarrassing stuff, like mocking Naomi. One of Naomi's really cool spots, they found the nerve to be like, oh, why would she do it? I don't want to get into it because I don't want to start drama or anything. I'm not about that. But, I do. That's a grain of salt for me. Especially with how venomous his language is here. Come on, get out of
usually
here with that.
I'm hesitant to usually use Alvarez as a source for anything.
Yeah, no, I know.
But both he and Meltzer have spoken about this. And now, obviously, they've heard seemingly. I won't say obviously, seemingly, they've heard things from somebody there. Obviously, somebody who is sympathetic to the official WWE position on things.
Yeah, that's totally true. But no, like you said, the Fightful Select report, a bit more measured. I find it difficult to believe nobody would be. Now, I can understand if the general sentiment is we're wrestlers, we're all part of a moving live machine, and if you leave during the middle of a show or while a show is broadcasting, it puts us in a bad spot. Like Becky had to run in and do the improv thing. So I kind of I would understand from that point of view. But yeah, I mean, and I understand FTR, by the way, did something. They didn't walk out, but something similar when they were with WWE. They were they approached and said, hey, we want something, we want some changes with our division here. And people don't, call them, oh, these guys are marks and all that kind of stuff.
They're
don't
difficult
hear that.
to work with.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I wonder what the difference is between them. So interesting to see how all this is playing out, is developing. And it'll continue to be interesting. You know, man, WWE, they've got right now the number, I think I just saw it about an hour ago. The number 27 trending video on YouTube is an episode of Kevin Hart's series, Cold as Balls. And it's where him and a celebrity guest, sit in an ice tub or
ice bath, right?
In two ice baths. And he interviews them, and it's silliness. And Sasha Banks was on this. Now, obviously, this was recorded before this happened, but it's very illustrative. You know, she talks about her defining moment in WWE being in NXT. One of the writers there said, "You're just a good hand." And she took great offense to that. And Kevin Hart was saying, "Who is it? Who said it?" She was like, "It doesn't matter who said it." She says, "I stepped it up a notch." Yeah. And within a month, I was NXT Women's Champion or something like that. There's a clip going around Twitter where Sasha's talking on the Broken Skull sessions about, "I'm no longer just happy to be here. I'm no longer just happy to have been signed." And she says, "I'm now at that next level." And she is. Mm-hmm. She is going to be a mainstream star. She is on that road. Why WWE wouldn't sort of, I don't know, treat that the same way as they would treat Cena going and saying, I want to bury the Nexus now. I want to do this. It's just, it's kind of bizarre to me that they have somebody right now under contract that they kind of need, I feel like they need to listen to a little bit more.
Oh, agreed. And 1,000%.
We're on the outside.
Totally.
But we see this stuff as outsiders looking in, and it's like, yeah, you know what? I think she's, and
WWE has a history of not really dealing well when people speak up, when they don't toe the line. Yeah. You know, it seems like it's a place historically where you feel like if you get out of line in WWE's eyes, if you speak up, you're subject to reprisals, the punishment.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, and that's not a healthy work environment.
Nope.
It's not.
Nope.
You know, and we're seeing that right here with people going to these sources, and especially in the case of the stuff Alvarez says, saying some pretty nasty things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and if you're on the outside looking in, or if, you know, in the case potentially of Sasha Naomi, you went there, you stood up for what you thought was right. Hey, we want to build to advance the women's tag division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which to me doesn't necessarily sound like a selfish move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, the move, the best, you could make the argument the best move for them career-wise is taking the title matches on pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I know.
So seemingly what they're doing is, we want to elevate this whole division.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
And not only do their concerns seemingly go, no one's listening, or at least paying them much credence. They are like, all right, well, we don't want to deal with this right now. We leave, and then they got to face all this garbage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why would you want to go back?
The whole just why aren't you just doing your job? Why don't you just do what they say? That means nothing's ever going to change there. You know? So when you have the pull, when you have the stroke, when you have the leverage, use it to make things better. And if you're sitting there, you don't have that kind of pull, you don't have that kind of stroke, you know, maybe appreciate when somebody else is trying to make things better.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, you want to pay some bills, Larson?
Sure. Let's take a quick break here to get a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp Online Therapy. You know, Steve, life can sometimes feel overwhelming, and it's easy to feel burned out without really realizing. There have been times where I felt unmotivated, attached, fatigued, wondered why, and then I thought about it, and then, you know what, I thought, maybe I'm burned out.
Ooh, yeah, man. Usually burnout is associated with work, but any of our roles in life can lead to burnout, and BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you to prioritize yourself, and talking to someone can help you figure out what's causing the stress in your life.
Yeah, I've been there before. I've gone through the process of trying to find a therapist. I can tell you it's not easy to find the right person to talk to. But BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. And it's much more affordable than in-person therapy. And you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the stress in your life, give BetterHelp a try. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Going In Raw listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/raw.
That's BETTERHELP.com/raw.
I thought this was pretty interesting. Jimmy Smith, who I didn't know this, but he's got his own podcast called,
I was not aware.
called Unlocking the Cage. He spoke about this stuff. He sort of clarified, if this was an angle, I wouldn't even talk about it. He's professional. But he spoke about this. He said because WWE released this statement about them, he sort of feels a bit more free to speak about it from his perspective. He doesn't really have any big, massive insider, news or backstage reactions, but just from his perspective, it was interesting to hear some of this stuff. These transcripts come to you from Fightful. He said, we on air had no idea that the main event that I called at the beginning, I'm standing in front of the cage saying it was a 6-woman tag team match, including Naomi and Sasha Banks. It was announced as the main event. We showed the graphics, all this stuff. We sit down at the desk, and a few minutes later, it's scratch that. It's not happening. It's Asuka versus Becky Lynch. Now, first off, he talked about, he confirmed, I don't have the quotes for this one, but he basically just confirmed, if this was an angle, I wouldn't be talking about it right now. Putting to rest the idea that this is a work. And yesterday, even though I said on our show, there's no way this is a work.
People in the comments, this has got to be a work. Is this a work?
Is this a work? You guys want to work? He talked about this because a lot of people obviously giving a lot of static to Corey Graves for, basically sort of burying Sasha and Naomi on air, calling them unprofessional. He said, so as we're dealing with all these changes, Corey Graves mentioned them leaving the building multiple times during the show. Sasha Banks and Naomi summarily and unprofessionally walked out. Graves said that over and over. I thought at the time, remember, I don't know what's going on until the show's over. He didn't know what had happened until the show actually ended. Yeah. He says, I thought he was just doing heel stuff. Basically, I thought Corey was just burying them because that's what he does to baby faces, right? No, they knew something was wrong, and it was once again getting that story out. Why they left, I don't know, but I'm telling you from a broadcast perspective, we had no idea this was going to happen. Once it did happen, it created a lot of problems that I thought our producers dealt with extremely well, but it created a lot of problems. He then goes on to talk about the statement put out by WWE. He says, I didn't know about the statement that the WWE had sent out until I was backstage. I assumed as an athlete that something physical happened during a warm-up, that they were getting ready for the match and Naomi pulled her hamstring. That's what I thought it was. I had no idea that them walking out, which is what we said on air, really happened. I didn't know that until after the match was over, not until the whole freaking show was over. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you the thought process. I can tell you what we know from the statement, which is they were upset for some reason and walked out. I can tell you the WWE was completely unprepared for it. I can tell you the broadcast team, myself included, were completely unprepared for it. And then he just talks about where he thinks it's going to go from here. He says, where does that leave them? It's hard when something like this becomes so public. I don't know Vince personally. I'm in meetings with him every week, but I don't know the man personally. I know what you know, which is get the events that we promised the fans. Then we'll deal with anything else, no matter how difficult, no matter how dramatic the problem is. Get the main event that we promised out there for the people. That didn't happen last night. So when you look at it that way, how do Sasha Banks and Naomi come back from this? I don't know, because if this is inside baseball. If WWE had never released a statement about this, I would not be talking about it right now. Wouldn't be a public issue. That's behind the scenes. I generally don't talk about behind the scenes stuff. I don't give away angles, any of that. This is now incredibly public in an almost unprecedented way. So even he understands this hasn't really happened before.
And we kind of touched on it yesterday when we talked initially about the story, about how it's so uncommon for WWE to release public statements involving backstage stuff. Mm-hmm. It hardly ever happens. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had a statement when Ambrose was leaving. Mm-hmm. But, that was like, hey, he's chosen not to resign. Best of luck. Yeah. And before that, there's been a handful of other instances. I can't think of anything comparable to this where there was a public statement issued.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And that's putting a massive spotlight on something that was, getting out and being reported on by Fightful and then also PW Insider.
Yeah.
It's just bring a lot more attention to the situation, putting that statement out there.
Yeah. The Ambrose thing was so weird. It's almost, there's this weird, I don't know. It's when the carny starts to creep in a little bit, It's let's not be the $1 billion company that we are. let's be a little petty. You know, it's like, oh, he's not going to re-sign with us? Okay, well, we're going to put out a statement saying he's not re-signing. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Right on.
Just of all like the backstage news that's happened over the last few years, even during shows that is broken, that they've never publicly acknowledged.
Right.
This is when they issue the statement. It's just like, why? I mean, other than the only thing I think of is that Vince was just really pissed off.
Yeah, it seems like that's probably the case.
And he wanted to say publicly, essentially, that he was really pissed off.
Yeah, and that's again where the carny starts showing. It's where it's like you're not putting what's best for your business above your own grievance, your own pettiness. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk before we dive into NXT. Quick Dynamite preview tonight, and it's notable, especially because we're going to be getting, I guess, both Jokers tonight. Is that right?
Yeah. So this is they got this great graphic here. We got three Owen Hart matches for the tournament. Adam Cole Bebe versus Jeff Hardy. We got four. Kyle O'Reilly versus Ray Phoenix, and then we got Samoa Joe versus Joker. We got Britt Baker versus Joker. We got Wardlow getting his 10 lashes. We got Jericho and William Regal doing the face-to-face confrontation. Then there's Hangman versus Takeshita with Punk on commentary. That might very well open up the show. And then, yes, these two Jokers. So Tony Khan was on Busted Open Radio today and mentioned they will be debuting superstars. Yeah. And added that they are fun arrivals. So
whoa, it seems to indicate
Fun Hoss. Maybe Fun Hoss. New people. Captain Fun Wrestling.
Fun Wrestling. What was one of your women's divisions? One of your women's division's opponents or competitors?
They have fun in the name?
Well, no, like anybody from Fun
Sharon
Wrestling.
Cruz.
There you go, Sharon Cruz. Who was the one who's wrestling? Who was the one wrestling pregnant?
That was your storyline. That actually wasn't actually an actual Fun Wrestling storyline.
So here's another hint that Tony Khan drops. Apparently, he responded to Mickey James, who is asking for hints. He says, "You're a very educated student of the sport of pro wrestling. I'm sure if you really put your thinking cap on, I bet you can guess who these two are." And then Tommaso Ciampa posted an Instagram where he was hanging out with Gargano and Candice LeRae and said, just hanging out with these two Jokers. You know, they're not as, that could be seen as like double misdirection. Like I'm putting it out there and people are automatically going to think that it's not them, but then it will be them.
I know.
So, I mean, the list is relatively small.
I know.
Athena, Nixon Newell, Claudio Cameraman, Gargano, and LeRae. John. It's going to make for a good thumbnail, though.
It will.
So stay tuned tonight
for a good thumbnail.
For our AEW recap. We're going to be doing that live on the twitch.tv/Stephen Larson. Right after that, we get it as fast as we can up to the YouTubes.
Indeed.
And in the audio realm as well.
Indeed. You ready to talk about some NXT?
Yeah, sure. I thought it was cool. It was, goofy like it usually is. I thought there is some developments in NXT that I'm really sort of appreciating these days. You know what, man? I feel for Wes Lee with all the stuff that happened with his tag team partner and he was stuck. I really like him as a solo guy.
Oh, he's great.
Right?
He's great.
We got the debut of maybe my new favorite character in NXT, Larson, Chill Sangha.
Oh, yeah. He was mellow.
This version of Sangha, he's got a ceiling that's above Lesnar, in my opinion. Unlimited ceiling. He's sitting there at the bar of the
only thing he was missing was like a little glass of whiskey or something, just being totally relaxed.
Right? Hey, brother, don't take it personal. Guy's your size, he's gonna be like that. And he's like, what? Wesley's like, get out of here. He's like, hey, brother, I don't want no trouble. I hope Sangha beats Wesley's ass next week, man. I want Chill Sangha all the way to the moon. That's what I want.
Right to the top. As a challenger for Braun Breaker, because they need to get Joe Gacy out of this title picture. This is awful.
This is going nowhere.
It's terrible.
Nowhere.
Terrible.
Yeah, man.
Terrible. There's no reason to have another match because Braun already beat him. And what? Joe tosses you out in an empty field, which is probably just by the lake in downtown Orlando.
It's probably within a half mile of where Breaker lives.
I know. And now you want another? You're willing to give Gacy another title match? Get out of here with that nonsense.
Yeah.
I'd rather see Duke Hudson versus Braun Breaker at the pay-per-view at In Your House.
I agree.
See this Joe Gacy stuff again.
I agree, man. I like Duke. I feel for Duke. I feel like he's been through a lot, and he's just back to where he started before the poker stuff.
I know.
But he's been through quite the journey.
He has. Remember when he was in a tag team with Shane Thorne and MVP was their manager?
Oh yeah.
The early days of like PC
when he was still
Raw.
When he was still Brendan Vink, and then they just didn't. Yeah, that was weird. So there is plenty of stuff. We had more of the breakout tournament. Lash Legend went over
Tatum Paxley.
Tatum Paxley, that's right.
And then Roxanne Perez went over Kiana James.
Yes, the calculator lady, right?
Yeah,
she was the calculator. Yeah.
She was doing some odds in her computer and saw that Roxanne Perez had minimal odds of winning this tournament.
Right. Bad calculations. She was like me. Couldn't get past. I got a 32% in calculus. I was just partying too hard, man.
Yeah. I was going to the calculus parties because I got an A in calculus.
You're going to the calculus parties. That's amazing. Oh, man.
We were all telling a bunch of derivative jokes.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know what a derivative. What is a derivative, Larson?
That's like the basis of calculus. You didn't pay attention to that extent?
Not a bit, man. I remember to this day, I remember how, because like I wasn't a dullard back in my high school days, like I am now. Like I swam through everything else, and then I hit calculus, and like it was a combination of like senioritis and socializing, but then like also my brain just stopped. I was like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. I was like asking Danny Leard. I was like, you know what any of this stuff is? He was like, yeah, you just do this. I'm like, I don't know what you just did. I'm going to go hang out with Jeff and watch Pulp Fiction again. Anyways, let's kick this thing off, man. Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams had a tag team match against Solo Sikoa and Cameron Grimes. So three of the dudes all vying for and plus the North American champion, all in a tag match together. In this case, unfortunately, the guy with who's tagging with his hype guy ended up on the wrong end of this particular match.
Yeah. Because Solo Sikoa is really over.
He is supremely over. And, I mean, it's kind of great, man. If you're in NXT 2.0, you can get that small crowd on your side. That looks great for you on cable TV.
I mean, Creed Brothers, same thing. They got the crowd. Love the Creed Brothers.
On the flip side of that, if you're Joe Gacy, you probably want to go to main roster sooner than later.
Oh, you don't want to do anything inside that arena.
Right. Period. You have a better chance with like 8,000 as opposed to like 100 or whatever it is in there.
Yeah.
Fun match, though. I mean, it really spotlighted everybody and what they do best.
Oh, yeah.
So Grimes gets a cave-in on Trick Williams as Solo Sikoa hits his splash onto Carmelo Hayes. So he gets the win there. Afterwards, the ref tries to hand the Grimes the North American title. Solo snatches it from him, and then he gives it to Grimes. Says, I want to get my hands on this first. Solo Sikoa is great. Honestly, he should be the next NXT champion, not North American champion, the next
agreed.
NXT champion.
Yeah, give him the belt.
He's really good, yeah.
He is really good. Then we get a pretty deadly interview. They're asked, they worried about facing the Creed Brothers in your house. We're like, oh, yeah, we're really scared to face the Creed Brothers in your house. Nope. They laugh it off. Says, in our first match here, we beat the Creeds to win the tag titles. Diamond, you can bring anyone in to help the Creeds train, but we're one of a kind. Now, let's go see what the Creeds are going to be like after the Viking Raiders destroy them.
After that, we had a video package for is this the high school student one?
Uh-huh.
So this is a video package for somebody that we're probably not going to see for like, I don't know, a couple of years because it's Thea Hale. She's graduating high school next week, but she's already part of like the Next in Line program with WWE. They're like, I don't know, going to have her training in college.
Yeah, they're going to let her train. Yeah, while she's in school still. Yeah.
So like, are we going to see her on NXT TV?
I don't know. I guess it's possible. I honestly don't know.
She should have give her like the Matthew McConaughey from God, what was that? The fucking old school movie, that super old movie that he was in, the Linklater one.
Oh, Dazed and Confused.
It's like she just stays in high school. Oh man, I love it here. I get older and them guys stay the same age.
Oh my goodness.
Because if she's like, hey, I'm graduating high school, that's her gimmick. She's a high school student. And she just keeps that gimmick. It's like, it's been 8 years. Why are you still in high school? Oh, man.
Enforcer says she's awesome. I'm rooting for her. So apparently she's been on Level Up.
All right. Really?
Yeah, that's what Bear Whitting says. She's been on Level Up.
All right. Anyway,
there you go.
Yeah.
So then after that, we had Lash Legend versus Tatum Paxley, the breakout tournament match. Beforehand, Paxley had a promo. Says she's not intimidated by Lash. She says, there's no one in this tournament stronger than me. I'm going to power through Lash the second round. And then every time Tatum Paxley tried to use that power advantage that she spoke about, she couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And even more so after Lash destroyed her leg.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really difficult to get in it. You just try to put her up on her, try to do the electric chair thing.
Several times. Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. Never. It wasn't like she built to it and she got it done. She couldn't do it.
Just tried 3 times. Never happened. Never happened. So Lash hits pump kick to get the win. After that, we had a Tony D'Angelo promo. He's talking about after he beat Santos tonight, he'll have no one to blame for himself. And then Stacks and Two Dimes were talking about a bunch of other ways they beat up people and all like the clever names they had for those ways of beating people up. And they're like reminiscing about
his head fell off the pavement like a basketball.
We did this, we did that. And then at the end of which Tony says, tonight, it's going to do this one-on-one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this was too long. After that, we had and these guys don't have any chemistry with Tony D yet.
Nope.
After that, we had a Duke Hudson interview. He says, I don't care what the NXT universe wants or needs. He says, that's what got me in this mess in the first place. He says, that's why I had to take time off, a couple weeks off to clear my mind. He said, but I came back and realized that no one can stand up to Duke Hudson, Braun Breaker. Okay, what was the sound that did you hear? There was like a weird sound.
Yeah, no, it sounded like he walked into something made of plastic.
I thought it was because I was watching on my big screen out there, but like the audio wasn't like great. And I swear I was like, is somebody revving a motorcycle next to them? And then he just shows up. Is he like a transformer or something?
You know, like they have those large kind of plastic. So it kind of sound like if you're watching a hockey game and someone hits the plastic boards.
Okay.
That kind of sound, but like thinner plastic.
Oh,
so a little tinnier thin.
Okay.
That's what it sounded like to me.
All
like
right.
he walked into something made of thin plastic, large but of thin plastic.
Did he not know there was like some sort of plastic? There was like some like plexiglass there separating.
Remember they used to have the boards in NXT. Remember?
Yeah, maybe he tripped into one of those.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
And then he comes storming through and says, "Hit my music, yeah."
What do you think he is, Vampiro?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I can't go out there until you hit my fucking music. So then Braun Breaker comes out. Oh my God, this is so long. So he says, last time you saw him, Joe Gacy dumped me in the field like a piece of trash. Now Joe wants me to join him. But after everything we've been through, Joe can kiss my ass. He's a butt sucker. He says, now he's just coming to beat him. No, now I'm just coming to beat him. I'm coming to put you. I'm not going to just beat you and put you unconscious. He said that. That's not just me making. He says, I'm going to put you unconscious.
Yeah, that's verbatim.
And then Joe Gacy interrupts, but I fell asleep. Because as soon as he starts talking, I don't fucking care because this guy doesn't say anything.
He doesn't say anything. He's just like, pretty much he says, yeah, Braun, you're mad. When you get mad, you get predictable. I'm going to make you more mad. We got a title match in your house that if you get DQ'd, you lose the title. So I'm going to use the fact that you lose your temper against you to try to get your belt.
Yeah. So,
but he took 5 minutes to say it.
Okay, so yeah, it's like a thing where, okay, so if he gets DQ'd, that was the stipulation. And I woke up right when like it was going back to Breaker. He said, yeah, you want it, you got it, yeah. And then I was there, and Wade Barrett was like, oh, that's a bad idea. And I was like, oh, so if he gets DQ'd, he still loses the title. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Then we got Indy Hartwell promo. She says it's been a roller coaster of late, but I'm tired of feeling sorry for myself. I have the biggest opportunity in my life right now because the first time I'm flying solo. It's just me, and it's sink or swim. So I'm calling my shot. I'm calling out Mandy. Mandy, you say you're the measuring stick of this division. Let's see how I measure up when I take that stick, shove it up your ass.
Shove it up your ass. Yeah. Indy needs to get called up. She had one of those tryout matches, didn't she, for like main event?
Maybe.
I think she did. She needs to get called up or something, man. She's like super young and in danger of being in NXT too long. After that, we had a Wesley interview. He's like, Zion Quinn is one of the most weird. He's one of the weirdest cases here in NXT.
Yeah.
He's got that weird catchphrase, run it straight. And then now he's like not medically cleared or something.
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's like, because last week he was like, make sure you're medically cleared. And this week he wasn't, which is weird.
Well, I mean, the way Wesley was talking about it sounds like Zion Quinn making excuses.
He's just ducking him. Yeah, that's what he accuses him of here. Yeah. But it's such a weird, I don't know. It's weird. Like Zion Quinn's thing doesn't come off as like coward. Didn't he already beat Wesley, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would he be? That's weird. Anyways. So he says, yeah, this is another match he's ducking. And Wesley's just pissed off. He says 1 week his shoulder hurts. The next week he doesn't have the proper hair gel. He says when he is cleared, he knows where to find me. And the Nathan Frazier steps in. He says, hey, man, I heard what happened with Quinn. He says, I know you want to be in the ring tonight, but, so do I. And Wes like, oh, man, you and me? Oh, boy. So it might not be the right time. I got a lot of pent-up aggression against Zion, and I don't want to have to take it out on you. Nathan's like, oh, okay, well, cool, man. If that's the case, I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Nathan Frazier just comes off like a good-natured dude.
Oh, he's just dude. He's just chill dude. I like him. I want to hang out with the guy.
Exactly. Let's see. I give it like 4 weeks till he gives him over the top character.
Yeah, it's going to be terrible.
It's going to be awful. Next match was good, though. Viking Raiders versus Creed Brothers. Creed Brothers are ridiculously over. Ridiculous.
Man, and even in my heart, they have done a complete 180. When I first saw these guys, they looked like they had a couple of left feet on them. On each guy, 2 left feet. It's a phrase. And now, man.
You mean 4 left feet between the two of them.
4 left feet between the two of them.
Because, in fact, the pair of them do have 2 left feet.
They actually do have 2 left feet between the two of them.
They have 1 left foot each, 2 collectively.
They also have a couple of right feet.
Yes.
Yeah. Now it seems like they all have just nothing but right feet because they're great. They're awesome.
Well, I think the same problem would be if they had all right feet, Steve.
See, man, I serve it up and you knock it out. Yeah, that's my long way of saying they're great. I love them. I think they're terrific. NXT Universe is on board with the Creed brothers, and so is Steve.
Yeah. Really fun match. I don't know how Brutus does that cannonball off the top and not like jack himself up. Because, man, that one last night especially, he bounced.
Yeah, I didn't know how he didn't completely annihilate everything from his knees down. I know. Yeah, he just did a cannonball from the top to the. Nobody did anything. They didn't even brace anything. He just barely. And he bounced.
He landed and he bounced. I know.
I didn't know that a bouncing thing would happen. I just figured he'd like fall backwards or something. But no, he bounced.
He bounced. So really fun match down towards the end. They're all in the ring, all 4 of them. They're throwing some hands. Eventually, Eric knees Brutus out of the ring. So Damon Kemp and Roderick Strong are ringside for the bout. So Kemp distracts the ref. And then Roddy runs in the ring to try to hit a running knee on Ivar. Julius intercepts him, more or less throws him out of the ring and yells at him, "We don't need you."
Yeah.
Ooh. So he turns around. Ivar hits him with a spin kick, and the Raiders hit a double spine buster to get the win. And afterwards, Roddy and Damon Kemp get in the ring, and they all start arguing, all of Diamond Mine.
Yeah. After that, we had a Legato promo. This was in response to the Tony D one earlier. Santos says Tony just wants to be just like me. He says, but there's only one Santos solamente. He says, I've always been one step ahead of Tony. Tonight, I trust it's going to be one-on-one. He says, no Legato by my side. And Cruz is pissed off. He's like, dude, they put me in a trunk. He's like, I want to get my hands on them. And then Wild says, come on, man, this is personal. And then Elektra Lopez, Tony referred to as godmother, which was kind of cool. She says, you never let your emotions get in the way of business. And Santos says, exactamundo. He tells Wild and Cruz, you guys, you want to know how you can help? You know what you could do to help, and you guys know what you need to do.
And then we got a Grayson Waller bit backstage. He's warming up for his match. Tiffany Stratton walks in. Grayson says it's a travesty that she's not in the breakout tournament. And she just says to him, you got to take care of this Andre Chase situation. He's like, well, go watch what I'm about to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then before that match, we have Braun Breaker walking out to the parking lot. Cameraman interviews him, and he's talking about Joe Gacy. And then Duke Hudson steps in. And he's like, hey, doesn't feel good to be interrupted, does it? He says, if you do it again, you're not going to make it in your house. And then Braun's like, oh, yeah, challenge you to a match. And Duke says, that's good. He's not going to put you unconscious. So next week, they're going to have a match.
Well, Braun says, how about we go back inside and we sell this, have a match. Yeah. And Duke's like, yeah, that sounds good. Next week.
Yeah, well, it sounds good. We'll go back in next week.
Next week. Until then, we're going to stay in the parking lot.
Yeah, you want to get some In-N-Out. You want to go to the Wawa.
Go get some sandwiches at the Wawa.
Yeah. We had Grayson Waller versus Andre Chase. After that, Andre Chase got a lot of his shit in. But then in the end here, there was a bit where Bodie is ringside, and then Chase backdrops Waller onto Bodie, and then he puts Waller back in the ring, but he's like, Bodie, are you okay? Are you okay, son? And then he gets back in the ring, and Waller executed this perfectly. Like, right as Chase gets in the ring, Waller's already doing the leaping through the rope stunner motion.
So and Chase turns around, bang.
And it's there. Yeah, this week I started to come around to Waller, even as a character, man. The backstage stuff, he's doing it kind of so comedically over the top that it's starting. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I didn't like when he was doing it kind of subtly. Now he's doing the head movements. They're so pronounced. And I like the stuff with him and Tiffany Stratton. I think it's pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I do come around to Grayson Waller anyways.
You didn't know anything.
I did. This always happens. So we're in the Toxic Lounge, and we got Gigi and JC on an iPad watching an interview with Katana Chance and Caden Carter. They're getting upset about it. Mandy Rose walks in, and she says, did you hear what Indy said about me? And Gigi and JC is like, well, did you hear what Katana and Caden said about us? And Gigi says, we've dominated for the last 8 months. There's no respect on our names, and we need to change that. And Mandy says, yes. And that all starts with Indy Hartwell.
Mm-hmm. After that, Diamond Mine are arguing in the locker room, and Roddy says, with my help, I got you guys a tag title match, but there's no way you're going to beat Pretty Deadly unless you listen to me and follow my lead. And the Creeds are like, fuck you, old man, and they leave.
Yeah, they leave, yeah.
Yeah, and then Roddy tells Damon, it's like, hey, man, you got to go get those Creeds. And Damon Kemp's like, really, now? It doesn't seem like a good time. He's like, nah, man. We got to get them another match. They need to learn.
Well, it's hard to hear what he said because he was really mumbly here.
Yeah, I thought he said he was really mumbly. I thought he said go get them, but maybe he was get them another match. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought I heard go get and then match in there too, but I could be wrong.
Okay, no,
I watched it like 3 times and actually turned it up. So
he says, so Kemp, feeling awkward, leaves, and then Pretty Deadly, yes, boys, step in. Tell them no matter how much tape the Creeds watch, they can't beat us. He says it's a shame that you can't show them how it's done. And so Roderick's like, I'll show you how it's done. I'm going to challenge you guys to a match, and I'll have Damon Kemp with me next week. It'd be kind of cool if Pretty Deadly replaced the Creeds and Diamond Mine.
That'd be something else. Then we had Roxanne Perez and Kiana James before the match. Kiana James had a promo. She says she's the most strategic woman in the tournament. The odds of Perez winning breakout tournament are astronomical. Oh, wow. She didn't say it in her favor or not.
Right.
Based on the outcome of this match, it seems like they're in Roxanne Perez's favor because Kiana James was working over Roxanne's back like the entire match.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then kind of out of nowhere, Perez hits Code Red to get the win.
Yeah. Really slick looking Code Red too. I love that move. Yeah. It's so nice.
It's a good move. It's a good move.
So so Kiana James in her promo, she didn't really mention her odds. Okay. No. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, you don't think Roxanne Perez is going to win the tournament.
No, I think Lash Legend's going to win.
All right. After that, we had Malik Blade and Idris Nofe backstage, and they're like in full on costume, sort of reenacting the feud between Tony D'Angelo and Santos Escobar. Mm-hmm. And so Stacks and Two Dimes step in. and tell him, hey, when you're done playing make-believe, how about they face the real deal next week? And Idris says, now you're speaking our language. So, yeah, that's going to happen.
Going to have a match next
God, I hope Idris and Malik really
Malik?
They
Great.
need to win that. They need to win that match, though.
They really do. They're great. Then we got a Roxanne Perez interview. It's pretty much instantly interrupted by Cora Jade. She comes in, hugs Roxanne, says, hey, you got 2 more to go to win this tournament. She says, the 2 of us have been friends. Roxanne's been killing it since she's been here. And Roxanne says, yeah, Cora's one that said, hey, come to NXT. And Cora says, I'm really proud. Tonight is your night. Elektra Lopez steps in and says, nah, tonight belongs to Legado. And just like next week, it's going to be my night when I take out Alba Fire. All I see here is an overachiever who will lose to Lash Legend and an underachiever who's just excited to lose a match as they are when they win one.
No lies there from La Madrina. Somebody here in chat, who brought this up? Delaney said, yeah, they gave, instead of calling it a Code Red, they call it Pop Rocks.
Yeah.
It's a cool name. Anyway.
Do you like Pop Rocks, the candy?
I did. I like them. Yeah. Weird sensation in the mouth. That was the main point there.
Did you ever put a whole package of them in your mouth at one time?
Probably, because I was a dullard.
Yeah, I know I did.
After that, we had Wesley versus Nathan Frazier. This was so much fun. This match was a blast until Von Wagner came in and just started laying out Frazier and Wesley with big boots, and then he throws Lee out of the ring and onto the announce table.
Yeah, that looked like it sucked.
Yeah, they replayed that over and over. That was a great spot, and it looked like it sucked big time.
It looked like it sucked.
So Frazier and Lee then shows them walking backstage. They go through the community kitchen area, and they walk past Chill Sangha. And he's like, hey, man, you guys had a great match. It's unfair what happened. He says, 2 men of your size don't have a shot against Von Wagner. And Wesley's like, what the fuck? He said, you said that so chill that but like the offensive bit, it was sort of buried in the chillness of Sanga's voice.
He says, are you taking shots?
Yeah.
And then Nathan Frazier goes, I don't think he is. He says, I pretty much think you kind of overreacted.
Yeah.
And he says, if you want to fight this battle, go for it. And he leaves.
Yeah.
And then Wesley's like, all right, I'm not going to stand for this disrespect. And Sanga's like, no, I meant no disrespect.
Hey, brother, no disrespect.
What is it that you want? And Lee says, I want to prove that you have to be 10 feet tall to be successful around here. And that leads to a match happening, I guess, next week.
And then Sanga stood up, and sure enough, he looks like he's 10 feet compared to Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
He is a giant human being.
He is huge.
So after that, we had is it the story of Wesley going to be he needs to check his emotions and bring it down a notch so that he can start winning matches? Because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like Sanga needs to win this match too, because he needs to win all of his matches at this point.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's Chill Sanga.
Yeah.
After that, we had the main event, Santos Escobar versus Tony D'Angelo. It kind of feels like this is just going to keep on going, though, because we had all sorts of distractions on the outside. So at one point, Tony's looking for his crowbar, and he goes and he looks for it, and it's not there. Well, it turns out that Joaquin Wilde and Cruz come out to the ramp, and they're like, hey, you looking for this? And then Stacks and Two Dimes show up, and they attack. The ref gets distracted by that. Meanwhile, Santa and Tony D's distracted by that. And Santos is looking under his corner of the ring, and he's got some brass knucks. And so he goes and he puts them on, and while the ref is distracted, Tony D tries to sort of pick him up, and then whack! He knocks him out with the brass knucks, puts him next to his dingus, and then he goes for the pin, and he gets the win here. So kind of feel like this is probably going to keep on going, which I'm cool with because I kind of like this feud. I think it's neat.
Maybe we'll get a 6-man tag match or something.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, that's probably going to be the case here. Anyways, before we answer some questions for the VOD crowd, the audio crowd and YouTubers, we've got the Enforcer's latest Level Up Lowdown. Let's throw to the Enforcer. Here you go.
Hey, friendos. How's it going? It's the Enforcer here for another edition of the review show nobody asked for, but you're going to get it anyway. It's time for the Level Up Lowdown. First match, we got Sanga versus Dante Chen. Sanga is using his power early on. Commentary mentions that Sanga is venturing out on his own over the split with Grayson Waller over the last couple of weeks. Sanga hits a sidewalk slam in the middle of this matchup for a 2 count, but Sanga just continues to impose his will onto Chen, even so much as going outside of the ring and giving him clubbing blow after clubbing blow. Chen later on in the match does use his speed to try and chop down the big tree, but one giant lariat from Sanga and all that is erased. The finish is Sanga just getting a massive choke slam on Dante Chen for the win. Second match out, we got Thea Hale versus Elektra Lopez. Hale, again, coming out, flexing on everyone. She runs out there with a cape, just flexing on everybody. Once again, 18 years old, the youngest person on the NXT roster. Lopez early on tries to show up Hale because of her inexperience. There was a tie-up into the ropes. Ref asked for a break, and then Elektra just gives Thea a couple pats on the head. Hale tries to get a couple drop kicks. Those connect into a crossbody, but Elektra catches her, kicks her into a slam to gain the advantage, easing into working her left arm a couple of times there. And then there was this one where Hale got her up in this position and then dumped her up over her to get herself some advantage. Then does a little bit of drop kicks. One of them misses because Elektra grabs the rope to stop her momentum. Thea misses on that drop kick. That turns into Lopez hitting her finisher, which is kind of a version of a Falcon's Arrow for the win. And then in our last match on Level Up, we got Javier Bernal versus Trick Williams. Early on, Trick does an arm drag takedown, immediately into a kip up, working the crowd. The crowd's loving him. Bernal gets a headlock. Trick tries to get out of it a few times, but to no avail. Finally, Trick does get the advantage when both Bernal and Trick try for drop kicks, but I may have seen this before, but I haven't seen it in a while, to the point where they both try and do the drop kicks at the same time, but one of them doesn't connect, but one does. Trick's does connect to gain that advantage. The finish goes to Bernal, tries to get a second side Russian leg sweep. Trick counters that into just a massive boot for the 1-2-3. So Trick gets himself a nice win to round out this episode of Level Up. Thank you, everybody, for sitting through this 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever it may be. And Steve and Larson, back to you guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you, Enforcer.
Thank you, Enforcer.
So awesome to have our man on the scene when it comes to the Level Up reviews, Larson.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Let's go ahead and answer a couple questions here. I got a question thread on the Patreon, patreon.com/Steven Larson. A bunch of reward tiers over there. If you can't make the show live and you have a burning question, you can leave it here. You got to be a patron. You leave it in here in our questions thread. We do a questions thread for every recap episode that we do. And then, of course, we got bonus content as well. Yesterday, on our bonus episode, we came up with a bunch of great merch ideas for Going in Raw. Sometimes the bonus episodes are the Going in Raw Brain Trust.
Yeah, it's brainstorming sessions.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Jorge D here in the Twitch chat, though, says, what can Chill Sanga convince you guys to do with his smooth voice? Oh, anything, brother. You know, if it'd be like a Locked Up Abroad situation. He's like, hey, brother, can you put these giant packages of cocaine? Can you tape them to your body and go through airport security? And I'd be like, yeah, dude, of course. With that chill voice of yours, absolutely.
Wow.
And then I'd get Locked Up Abroad. Mm-hmm. You ever watch that show?
A couple times, yeah.
A lot of dumb people in this world, man. And they're all on that show.
Yeah. Cornbread Haas says, NXT in your house is coming up. What is your favorite in your house? It's Mind Games, because it's got the main event of Mankind versus Shawn Michaels, and that's a spectacular bout.
I think mine is, what was it called? Dudes with Attitudes?
Well, that was Kevin Nash and Shawn Michaels tag.
Yeah, they didn't have one named after them. Maybe it was 3. It was whatever one they were on.
Yeah, because they were
tag
won the
champions.
tag titles.
Yeah. It's like 3, I think.
Yeah, because they also had Good Friends, Better Enemies, where they had a match against each other. That was
right. You're right, though. It's Mind Games. Xavier Gray says, why is Pretty Deadly still wearing women's clothing in their segment videos? Oh, because they look like $1 million. Because they look amazing. Moses Opposes says, so I only keep up with NXT through you guys and Cultaholic. I haven't heard about Odyssey Jones for a while. Did he get injured or something?
I think so.
I think he did.
I think I
remember hearing that it was like a knee injury or something.
Yeah, that sounds right. White Brownie says, we always say this person has been in NXT too long, so how long should a talent be in NXT before getting called up?
I think a year. I think spend a year in NXT.
I think now that they're not worried so much about... Obviously, the focus of NXT is developing talent, not telling stories.
Yeah.
I mean, while people are there, they'll tell stories. But they're not going to tell stories that last more than months, probably, between wrestlers. So, yeah, I think a year is probably a year to year and a half.
Yeah. Let's see here. Alex Washington said, went to Impact's Under Siege and the following TV tapings in Newport. He says it was honestly a better live experience than going to AEW or WWE because of how personal and interactive the show felt. He says, my question is, do you prefer to go to smaller shows or big AEW, WWE events as an experience? And what's your overall thoughts on the Impact product? I think Impact is, it's remarkable how well that show is booked considering the kind of turnover rate. Like, a lot of people come and go from Impact. And so sometimes you get stuff like, pay-per-view matches will change right before the show. But I think that they do, honestly, Scott D'Amore, Gail Kim, the people booking that show. I think Jimmy Jacobs does some work there. Tommy Dreamer, I think
so
does
too.
some work there. They do a wonderful job managing their roster and those bulk tapings that they do. It's a very enjoyable wrestling show. It's not doing anything new. Like, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's not knocking anything necessarily. It's not all home runs, but they got a lot of really great talent there. They do a really good job telling a variety of wrestling stories of all different sort of genres. So I really like Impact, and I much prefer smaller shows. I will definitely take a small wrestling show over a WWE show any day of the week. Same.
As far as Impact, it's probably the most consistent wrestling show on TV.
Yeah.
They may not reach the highs that AEW or WWE does. I don't feel like the lows are as low either.
I agree. Yeah.
It's incredibly consistent week after week after week, month after month.
Nikal has a great question here. He says, of the green wrestlers on the NXT 2.0 wrestler, who do you see benefiting the most in getting reps from the upcoming live event? So that was also announced during this show.
Yes.
That
in June, they're going back out on the road.
They're going on the road, man. And they're doing like 3 or 4 shows a week. Like there was a bunch just sort of in a row.
Yeah.
That is in 6 months time. You're going to see a marked improvement in the in-ring product in NXT because I firmly believe that just reps. I think people that
1,000%.
they obviously really like Lash Legend. And I think that somebody like her, who I think has a really massive ceiling, will benefit greatly from just additional reps. And I think you'll see that play out on TV as well.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Dang MQ, if Joe Gacy was called up to main roster and you had to rebrand him, what would you rebrand him as?
I mean,
they would never do this because it would require acknowledging wrestling that exists outside of WWE.
Okay.
He was in CZW for a long time.
Yeah, right. And
you do something where he pretty much says, yeah, I used to do the CZW, used to do the hardcore stuff. But that's not what wrestling really is. Or sports. This is what sports entertainment is. It's sort of like what Foley did in ECW, where he's like, I'm not doing the hardcore stuff anymore. I'm against hardcore stuff.
That's cool. I like
that. And he can kind of wrap in the whole gory self-mutilation stuff that WWE talks about their press releases when talking trash about other companies, something like that.
That's good. I like that. That's good. Yeah, that's better than anything I have. Just get him away from this shit that he's doing now. That's for sure.
What he's doing now is bad.
Like taking him down like the dollar store Bray Wyatt route is not a good idea.
Nope,
it's not a good idea.
Not working.
So you got to get him away from that. I wouldn't mind going back and watching that last breakout tournament with him and Andre Chase, and just seeing like sort of what vibe, and Briggs was in that too. Just seeing sort of what vibe they were giving off then, as opposed to when 2.0 came around. And I mean, Andre Chase is super over as well.
Yeah, he's pretty funny.
Chase University is really over, and he's hilarious. Yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for the show. Tonight, we've got our AEW recap, so everybody come hang out with us on the Twitch after Dynamite. Thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonator Phil McDonald, here to tell you to go support Going In Raw and Friendo Club at patreon.com/Steven Larson. They got bonus episodes, ad-free audio, a weekly newsletter rounding up the weekend wrestling news, and a bunch more. Patreon.com/Steven Larson. Go support or get hit with a stunner.